We're going to start out by talking about the FlowPane. FlowPane arranges the nodes in the pane horizontally from left to right, or vertically from top to bottom. In other words, whichever order they were added. When one row or one column is filled, a new row or column is started. We have orientation horizontal for row, or orientation vertical for columns. Padding specifies the size of the border of the pane using insets. That goes from top, right, bottom, left, clockwise order. You can specify the distance and size between nodes and objects using something called a H-gap and a V-gap. So let's take a look at this and all of these properties here. Here is the UML for a FlowPane, but let's jump into the code. This is from our textbook examples again. Show FlowPane. This is what our program currently looks like. And it is flowing down. So first name, middle initial, here's the box, last name, and here's the box. Now that doesn't look great, right? That's because the window is sized the wrong size. As you can see, if I shrink this, see how the stuff starts to flow down? And if I expand this, it flows. So when I make this massive widthways, it all flows in one row. But when I make it smaller, when it's not going to fit in one row, the next thing starts to flow down to the next row. You see that? This is what a FlowPane is all about. It automatically adjusts to the size of the window. So let's talk about the code and some of those things we saw in the PowerPoint. So this is a FlowPane because we say FlowPane pane equals new FlowPane. That's how you create a FlowPane. Here we set the padding to 11, 12, 13, and 14. Again, padding is the padding around the nodes. So this is the left padding here, this is the right padding, the top padding. Again, padding works like this. It goes top, right, bottom, left. So if I was to change this 11 to 111, you can see that the top of our program, the padding, is greatly increased now. Right? So if I change the 12, because it goes top, right, bottom, left, if I change the 12 here, then what should happen is we get a little more padding over here. And if we were to change the 14 to 140, our left padding is pushed all the way over. So that's how our padding, or our insets, work. What is H-gap and V-gap? Well, these are your horizontal and vertical gaps between nodes. So again, take a nice look at the distance between this text box and this text box, as well as first name and this text box. If I changed it from 5 to say 75 on vertical gap, then the vertical gap we get between each node is now of 75 pixels. You see that? So 5 was much nicer, 5 pixels between each. Maybe changing it to 15 might make it a little clearer, as you can see, and you could do the same with horizontal. The other thing we spoke about was it flows based on the size of the window. Well, the size of the window right now is automatically set down here. After we add all of the children, we set the width to 200. If I set the width to be 1000, that should be big enough to flow all of the nodes on one row, and it is. If we change that to be 300, we should make an adjustment where we now have 2 rows. That's actually quite nice. And if we changed it to 100, this would probably be too small, yes, and we nearly have 1 per row. So 200 is what we started with. Something else to talk about here is how we are adding the children. Pane.getChildren. We haven't seen add all before, so instead of add, you can use add all, and this will allow you to add all of your nodes at once to a pane, as you can see here. So that is a FlowPane. Again, all you really need to know is that it flows based on the size of the window, horizontally and vertically.